I know I've talked about him on the channel here before. Desparius, one of my favorite video guide makers, always here to kind of share knowledge and present it in a way that I can take in and I can understand, is here to talk about 5 leveling mistakes that you should avoid in Final Fantasy XIV. Yesterday we filmed an upcoming video for my 2-week break in August, about like how to maintain armory space, and it had a lot to do with the way you level things and the order you level them in. So I'm interested to see kind of what leveling mistakes I should avoid.
Welcome to another video in which I want to inform you, especially those that recently started into Final Fantasy XIV, about some mistakes you should avoid while leveling for a much cleaner and more enjoyable leveling experience. Which directly leads us to the first and my number one tip. Keep yourself entertained and try to alternate your leveling methods, because in Final Fantasy there is not only one piece of content that will reward you with experience points, but many, and I highly recommend to try them out all together to find the most enjoyable for yourself. Personally, I really like to rotate between duties like dungeons or duty finder dailies, fates, leave quests, and avoid just spamming my command missions or Palace of the Dead over and over again, which are categorized as the most efficient ways to level. The one who's leveling and that is enjoying all of it will reach the finish much faster than those losing their motivation on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that one of the things that, I mean, I don't have every job leveled, but one of the things that I have found has made me resent MMOs before is when I've let optimization, like literally just optimize the fun right out of the game. Just squeeze it all the way out, where there's a best method and a second best method and a third best method, and I'm so stuck on the top method that I feel like, man, this game's so flat, it's so boring. But it's that I've let math say that the second 2 methods shouldn't be mixed in, when those can be just as fun.
Especially in Final Fantasy, the road is actually the goal, leading to our second mistake. This is kinda an exclusive for all people that are leveling their first character. Don't focus on leveling, focus on doing your main scenario quest. I cannot emphasize this often enough, because on higher levels and in general path of your journey, you will easily get enough experience points for completing your main scenario quest.
This did not always used to be the case, so when people think that there's something weird about this, just know that there is. When Final Fantasy was brand new in A Realm Reborn, it had just relaunched 2.0, there were times you gapped out and you had to go do fates or battle leaves or daily roulettes, etc. to kind of keep up with all of that. That's no longer the case, because a new player needs to clear all of the main story to be caught up in order from 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and now 5.0, and each of those, not only the initial expansion, but the 5 content patches that come afterwards, as our traditional pattern historically has been point 1, 2, 3, continue the expansion scenario, and then point 4 and 5 set us up for the next one. And that's a lot of story. And so to players that are overwhelmed, they've scaled up the experience. They've actually trimmed 100 of the Realm Reborn quests. And that's what's made that what they hope is a reasonable new player experience. So you do not have to do any side quests. The only 2 things you need to focus on are your main scenario quest and your job class quests, which actually appear as subtext when they're available, right there on what defaults as the top left of your screen, where it tells you what your next main scenario is. It's tempting to do all that other stuff, but you're going to have other jobs. You will out-level main scenario just from doing this, so I wouldn't worry about it. There are people who say that because they mix some roulettes in or some hunting logs in or some other stuff, that if they're using appropriate experience boosts that are available through things like experience giving accessories or food, that they're able to level 3 or 4 jobs on a new player, especially if they're on a Road to 70 server, which is where the new players are encouraged to play. Those recommended servers give an additional experience buff, but you shouldn't need any of that. If you're just trying to level 1, it's really easy, and then you can save all that other stuff you want to try for when you level a second one and a third one and so on. It's a massive amount of experience. Now, the third thing people recommend you do is these blue plus sign quests, because those unlock other content, anything from an emote to a dungeon. Since you're not going to be running any of those dungeons anyway, if you want to go back and do those when you have flying unlocked and all of that, I think somebody said that some of those may have flying unlocked. It's hard to say because it's been a long time for me. you don't have to do those right away. You could make it to cap and then go back for those. You could do those as you go, whichever way sounds more fun. The only thing that you're really required to do is main scenario and your class quests.
And the duties you're required to accomplish on its path. So don't worry too much about any leveling guide, tips, or try to be on the perfect road. You will automatically get there by following the destinations that the main scenario quest will take you to. But of course, if you feel like that the required level of your MSQ is much higher than your own, just try to do the most essential of things, your duty roulette leveling, which is still the most efficient method, except you're going for a grind and play this game 16 hours a day.
Duty roulette leveling gives you a massive amount of experience in trade for running any dungeon that is available to your character. If you're running with a full pre-made group, you can actually restrict it to only run within appropriate level ranges for your character. But otherwise, the reason duty leveling roulette exists versus other MMOs is that clearing the dungeons as you go, the vast majority of the dungeons are baked into the story. And so the story unlocks the dungeons and the dungeons unlock the story. And so it's all done in order. And what that means is that as we invite new players in, especially during Shadowbringers where many new players came in, we have a lot of people who need to clear basically every dungeon in the game once. And you can imagine it would be very frustrating as a new player to be told you just need to do main scenario and you're leveling as a DPS and you queue and it's a 2-hour queue time. That would be incredibly frustrating. So what they've done is they've incentivized other players to be willing to run those old dungeons by saying, hey, I'll run anything and I can't control what I'm going to run if I'm just running with randoms, but I'll get a massive chunk of experience at the end. And so that encourages them to go in and be available for that content. And that is what guarantees that enough people are running their daily leveling roulette every day to hopefully keep those wait times really manageable.
If that is the case and you still feel underleveled, just clear things on your path. A fate spawn next to the location of your main scenario quest target, then just do that fate. Hunting log mobs around your location, go for them and get these free XP. On the other hand, don't get demotivated by main quests not rewarding you with
the hunting log drops off at level 50s and it's not available for any job added after 2.0, which is a growing number of jobs. I will go back and note on the leveling roulette, it is incredibly efficient to level as far as the number of hours spent. The downside is that bonus is only once a day, and so it is incredibly slow as far as the total number of days it would take to get from running it once a day from level 15 to level 80, soon to be level 90, because you're locked in once per day.
With good XP for quite some time, because the quests that you will face between expansions are not designed to count into your leveling process, so that other activities don't become pointless completely and you could easily just push MSQ without looking to your left or right, which would cause you to be thrown out of immersion that this game is known for and people love it for good reason. Surely if you're leveling up secondary jobs, there are multiple ways of grinding up your leveling progress with efficiency, but the one thing with the best effort to reward relation is duty roulette leveling, that on many levels will grant you one level up per duty for a completion time of 15 to 20 minutes total. Of course, you can only do this once per day, but that is the least you should do. Having leveled up all fighter jobs to level 80, I remember to have grinded so many experience points with just sticking to duty roulette leveling on a daily basis that kept me on the leveling road while never granting the feeling to grind it, or damn, I need to actively level this or that job or class. Which sounds super dumb, but believe me, as Final Fantasy is designed to provide endgame currency even on these duty roulettes specialized on granting XP, you will often run into people from your free company or friends that will hook you up for a quick leveling roulette. And if you got a job that can use a nice XP boost, it is a most welcome push without actively going into the leveling mood. Yes, you can also sit back, watch the Duty Roulette Netflix aka 28 Days Later or Dr. Strangelove and How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, which will repeatedly throw you into the most cutscene driven dungeons this game has to offer, and Square has removed the option to skip cutscenes there, for helping out new players to get a fresh sensation of the events happening, including a 5-minute talk with important Gallian people on elevators.
So what happened with main scenario roulette? What is going on when you're getting towards the end of A Realm Reborn and you have to run Castrum followed by Praetorium? What in the world is this? So, during A Realm Reborn, we added 2 story-based dungeons that were incredibly long. that were meant to really fill this out. Now, based on feedback around that, they never added anything like that again. They are required to get through story, and so to once again encourage players to run that with them, we created a roulette for it called a main scenario roulette. The main scenario roulette is not really a roulette, it's a coin flip because there's only 2 things locked inside it, just like the expert roulette is always the 2 most recent dungeons. Not really anything expert about it. And so the Castrum Praetorium roulette, most of the time it's going to be Praetorium. In my experience, it's probably 60-40. I think there's some people doing some stuff to control that, but let's not get too sidetracked. And it takes a long time. People didn't enjoy doing it, and so what they would do is they would blast through the cutscenes, and back then, it didn't teleport you to the boss if they pulled before you, and so new players were zoned into the dungeon, and if they watched the cutscenes, they were literally cutscene to cutscene to cutscene to cutscene to cutscene for 45 minutes straight, and they never saw a boss fight, and once, if they were out of a cutscene, they didn't know where to go. Everything was dead as far as they could see. People were pulling too fast. So, what do? Well, you tell people that they need to wait. They don't want to wait. What happens if 2 tanks queue together to do main scenario for the first time? 2 healers. The group just kicks them. You're going too slow. You should watch those cutscenes from your inn. You should not enjoy this dungeon the way it was introduced. You should not enjoy this dungeon the way it was designed. You should get out of our way. So they made the cutscenes unskippable. Now, in trade for that, they made the amount of experience unbelievably high. And so for people that say they wish we could go back to skipping, just remember that would bring the experience down with it. The experience is scaled up because they know that Castrum's going to take you that 35 to 40 minutes. Praetorium is basically right at 50 minutes. To people that say, well, how come it's not skippable if everybody here's seen it? Because what would happen is if there was a way to run Praetorium for the same experience without cutscenes, the moment you got in and realized it was not one of those runs, people would leave. It's one of the few times in history that the devs have had to make a strict, long-lasting decision entirely around toxic behavior that some players were doing, where they've just had to say, then don't run it. But it is fondly referred to as movie roulette. It's a great chance to, sometimes you're playing another game at the same time. Last night I watched Spofi was running Praetorium while playing Power Washing Simulator. I've done it while knocking out WoW dailies. You're not behind because these are unskippable cutscenes. So as long as you're there to attack the boss when it's there and you're playing another game that can stop during those times, when you're in cutscenes, you're just hanging out. Some of the cutscenes are voiced, some are not. You can watch Netflix, you can eat a sandwich. Somebody the other day said that in between cutscenes, their computer was in their kitchen. They were able to prepare, I assume, maybe it wasn't. You were able to prepare, cook, eat, and clean up a stir fry. It's a long time. It is an optional roulette. It is an incredibly large amount of experience and can be run on any job that is level 50 or higher. It is there to protect the new player experience. In my opinion, it should be deleted as a roulette. The instances should be left in there. It should not be available to be grabbed by leveling roulette. And the new players should be given an 8-man trust, and it should be a scenario. We should remove that as something that new players would run into as a gate, and thereby remove the incentive. I'm somebody who's done it a lot, but I do think that because it's so optimal, because it's so much experience for so little effort, even though it's probably not optimal per minute spent, I see a lot of people complaining that they're having to do it, and I think encouraging that, it's not good gameplay. It's not. It's not a good representation of the game as a whole. It's these 2 isolated pieces of content. So for me, personally, while I am somebody that does it, I think the game would improve by removing it and giving new players a better experience.
So be prepared that this leveling method is not the most thrilling one if done repeatedly. Nonetheless, this can grant up to 2 levels per run, which is still a very good reward, and you can easily do other stuff during the big chat on the elevator. Or you're lucky to get the other part of this duty roulette, which is much faster. All on a daily basis, so nothing for the grindy people wanting to level up secondary jobs as quickly as possible. The next one can be applied to literally every game where you have to level up jobs. Get a second screen or a tablet or mobile phone or whatever, and just keep you entertained by watching something in the meantime. Unlike people may tell you, leveling is and will always be a test of endurance and patience, because developers are planning in that time to produce content, and as long as a player is able to level up additional jobs or characters, they won't hear loud voices about content drought or content not being produced frequently. So just listen to the podcast you always wanted to listen to, learn for the next semester lesson, or enjoy TV, Netflix or movies, which also will increase your multitasking abilities that are useful for all sorts of things in life. Just make this enjoyable as best as you can, or consider to hop over to certain leveling guides that can help you for a specific leveling range, or grant.
There are many good podcasts within the 14 community, but if I had to start new players anywhere, I would start them by listening in the background to the No Clip documentary about the history of 14 and how we got where we are. It's a huge insight into a lot of what the foundational identity of this community is based on. It's wonderfully produced. It's in, I believe, 3 parts on YouTube, and I would encourage you to run that in the background if you're going to run the game without sound while you're just leveling.
Tips in general. I guess I know someone with a whole series about leveling and many more videos about that topic, which can be found in the description, of course. Okay, last but not least, let me spend some words on the most efficient methods in this game, even if that contradicts my early argument. For those speedrunners and optimizers among you, if you have leveled up one of your jobs to a certain level or plan to upgrade your game to the next expansion already, you can use the Menfinna earring to get a solid boost of 30% XP for battle experience, and can directly use that boost to hop into command missions with your squadron, which still seems to be the most efficient method to get your goal until level 60 or 61, and when other methods.
So I think if you're going to categorize this as a leveling mistake, I think what he's hitting on here is don't avoid free experience. So to go over free experience, I assume he's going to go over a couple of them, but just to get out in front of it and make sure that he doesn't forget any while he's talking about it, because he'll probably present how to get it better than me. When you are level 15 prior to your first dungeon, it will offer you to run Hall of the Novice. It's done from, like, I think your duty screen. If you run Hall of the Novice on one job, it'll teach you the basics of the game for that role, and it will reward you with a ring that will give you increased experience up until level 30. The level that it gives is based on the level you are in the content. So if you sink down to a level 24 dungeon, it goes back into effect. So don't unequip it the moment you hit 30, because you're probably still running some things that might be a little bit lower. But obviously if you're 50, maybe it's not worth really dealing with. The earring from pre-ordering the next expansion always gets you to the current cap, because the Shadowbringers one got us to 70, and now the Endwalker one is getting us to 80. And so if you're somebody who pre-ordered Shadowbringers, you don't want to pre-order Endwalker yet, that's fine as long as all your jobs are below level 70. Before the pre-order earring was available, there was a earring tied to Bozja for doing 1,000 relics that was 10%, and so that's what was there prior to the 30% up to level 80. On new servers, we get plus 100% in the road to 70. I forget how long it takes for that to fall off. Your food buff is 3%. Every time you eat food, it gives you 30-minute extension to that buff. You can eat it twice to extend it to a full hour, so you have to worry about it less. That was a huge quality of life change back in the day. Your free company can put up a buff for increased battle experience, but if they don't want to, or if you don't have a free company, or if they just don't have the ability to, your grand company sells squadron manuals that can mimic the same buff. Rested experience, log out anywhere that shows a little moon next to your experience, and that'll build up rested experience like other MMOs that will help people that can play less often throughout the week get a little bit of a bonus to kind of keep up. And then making sure you're knocking out your daily bonuses once a day. So if you want to do leveling roulette every day, that's fine. Whatever it is you want to knock out. So when you combine all of those, it's very easy to get well over 200%, 250, 280% bonus experience, which means that whatever it is you're doing leveling, you're effectively doing it much, much, much faster.
Methods become more relevant, like Heaven on High, or Dungeons, or Trust, or Bozja leveling in Shadowbringers. But as all things really change from level step to level step, I can only recommend to check out the many videos or written guides found on YouTube or other web sources.
So we mentioned Bozja leveling in passing. One of the things Final Fantasy XIV often does is allow you to double dip, where you're getting experience from something you already want to do anyways. So as you're leveling up old beast tribes, be sure to do those on other jobs as you can, especially in Shadowbringers, where now the quests can kind of scale that up a little bit. So from 70 to 80, the pixie dailies are incredibly efficient. In our current relic grind, WoW players might refer that as a legendary. Guild Wars players would use the same term. Our relic grind, this expansion, expansion, over the course of the expansion, was tied to a zone called the Bosnian Southern Front and later Zadnor. You can actually zone into that zone as low as level 71. And the reason for that is that all the in-game content for as far as the relics is geared towards your level 80s, but you might want to put experience on a job while you're working towards that relic. And so I've leveled up several jobs this expansion from 70 to 80 by getting them to 71 through one of these other methods, and then from 71 to 80 going into Bosnia and getting the drops I need for my tank relics while not playing tanks. And so it's letting me double dip. At that point, it's not really about, is that experience better or worse than leveling roulette, because I'm working towards my relic goal at the same time, and leveling roulette just simply doesn't allow for that.
So hop in there, don't forget to catch your earrings if you plan to play Endwalker anyways, and just keep enjoying the main scenario quest with your first character and job to level. Things go into the classical grind afterwards early enough, so keep yourself motivated. Stick to alternation and reach that level 80 in no time. Oh, and try out other jobs whenever you feel to, because they get a heavy bonus when being below your first job, so you can easily catch up with the urge for a tank or healer easily. Thanks for watching, and if you like, check out some of my other leveling videos found in the description that are going more into detail on all specific leveling ranges. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.
Super condensed, super precise. Thank you, Desperius. I am too wordy for things like this. Impressive as always. And definitely a great way to make sure that you're enjoying everything you can in this game. Kinda.